Hey cats, it's EDDBUD here. I'm on a max cushion mission in today's video. I've got together a group of plus 40mm midsole stack shoes. I'm going to test them up against the recently reviewed Asics Superblast. So each of the shoes in today's comparison is plus 40mm in the heel, at least for the standard sample size. In my size they come in a lot higher than that. I'm going to try and figure out which is the best of the best when it comes to max cushion. Welcome to the channel, people. If it's your first time here, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like, it really does help out. So today I've got a load of shoes for you that you'd probably want to consider wearing if you were going to attend a Kiss concert, maybe a little bopping around to some T-Rex, or even going to see a Sweet tribute act. Max cushion models, all of them plus 40mm in the heel stack. Here in fact on screen are the sample midsole heel stacks. The Nimbus 25 coming in around about 41.5mm in the heel. The New Balance SC Trainer version 1 at 45mm. And I got about the same measurement for the Superblast. And then of course the big boy Adidas PRIMEX Strung, which comes in at 50mm. As I mentioned earlier, these are much higher in my UK 11, US 12. The PRIMEX here is easily the narrowest in the forefoot section at the widest point, and in the heel. You got the SC Trainer and the Superblast somewhere in the middle. The softest foam out of all of these by far is the Fuelcell material in that SC Trainer, with both the Asics shoes on the firmer side, PRIMEX Light Strike Pro hanging out somewhere in the middle with a sure A 30 score. Weight wise, there's a colossal difference between the Superblast and the Nimbus 25, 74 grams in fact. I think that will tell you what these two shoes are for. That Nimbus certainly on the lines of a slower long run shoe, more impact protection. I think the Superblast has got some wider versatility there with its much lower weight. Only 281 grams for the Superblast, though the PRIMEX Strung isn't far away with 305 grams for that massive stack. While I'm on that front, on screen now are the heel stacks for the UK 11 pairs that I have. Though the SC Trainer is a 11.5, it fits more like an 11. The PRIMEX has a 54mm stack, which is easily the tallest of all, and it's also the narrowest, don't forget. The SC Trainer and Superblast are around the same stack, 48 or 49mm, and then the minimal Nimbus shoe, only 44 for that one, guys. I mean, it's basically a race flat from a few years ago. So all of them at least 4mm above the allowed limit in the sample size. I'm a good few sizes above that though, so don't get too upset, people. Rather than doing some weird convoluted point system in today's video, I'm just going to sort of rank the shoes from worst to best. So upper wise, the PRIMEX Strung and the Superblast really stick out to me. They've got some very simple uppers, really work very well. They just have the basic required elements needed. Apart from this bit, which I just don't feel is necessary. Kind of reminds me of a bat. I mean, it might look quite complex, but it really is quite a simple shoe in terms of the upper. And the same can be said about the Superblast, really, simplicity itself. No overlays or thick fabrics anywhere on these two shoes. I think they've done that to try and keep the weight to the absolute bare minimum. These are the two lightest shoes in the comparison. In terms of upper and in hand, actually, the Nimbus is certainly the heaviest of the models. Much more plush and perhaps an option for those who want the most comfortable shoe for those longer runs. When it comes to upper, the SC Trainer is a bit of a try-hard, really. It's tried to reduce the actual amount of fabric and materials here. You've got this sort of mesh and knit ensemble, but it doesn't really work that well at holding the foot in place. I think it's because they don't have this sort of extra eyelet here that you'd expect. New Balance always seem to try to minimize the number of eyelets, which sort of nerfs the fit a little bit. The PRIMEX Strung really has a very unique feel to the upper, though I have to say I do like the Superblast for that very conforming fit over the top of the foot. I've managed to dial in the fit a little bit better now, experimenting around with some other laces. I think the PRIMEX Strung still has to take the crown for the best upper though, mainly down to fit and durability. I mean, this thing looks like it's out the box. It's crazy. Though the more I run in the Asics Superblast, the more and more I'm liking the shoe. So if I'm going to rank the shoes, here we go. In terms of upper, I think the Nimbus 25 is probably at the bottom here. It's just a little bit too plush for me, certainly for the English summertime. The SC Trainer comes in a little bit lighter. You've just got slightly more breathable materials here, which probably makes it a more usable shoe for the current climate. I'll go PRIMEX in second position. purely because of that really weird pull tab, and the Superblast, it just is the bare minimum, and I like that. Midsole. Now, once again, in terms of midsole, the Superblast and the Primex Strung really do stand out here. I think if you want speed and versatility, these are the two shoes. They're in a slightly different category. I found these worked across a range of paces, really, anything from a sort of slower recovery to some sort of breakneck speed 200 or 400 meter bursts. So if you need stability, the Superblast is probably the better of the two. I've heard of quite a few people picking up the Primex and they just can't run in it. I think it's down to that more narrow base. I'm a neutral type runner. I find very few problems with very few shoes. I've got quite a consistent foot strike. I'd suggest that the slightly firmer foam in the Superblast is probably going to benefit those who've got some pronation issues. It doesn't quite have that airy nature of the Primex Strung, and this one just gets better and better and more sort of malleable, I suppose, as you use it. I think the additional width that you've got underneath the Superblast is probably going to help some runners out. It's going to benefit those people that are doing some longer, slower runs. The Primex does feel like it wants you to run that little bit faster. It's a bit more propulsive. So if you want the wild bounce of the Adidas shoe, you've got to sacrifice some stability. That's just the way it is. On the other end of the spectrum in terms of midsole, the Nimbus 25 is the firmer of the four today. That's not to say it's uncomfortable or unforgiving in any way. It's just a slightly more dense, sort of controlled cushion here. Probably going to suit the longer, slower runs, those Sunday sort of saunters, where, you know, consistency and comfort are the key words. That SC trainer is the softest of the lot with that Fuelcell material here, but I think it almost feels nerfed a bit by the inclusion of that carbon plate within the midsole. I found it a little bit soft for slower running, a little bit sloppy perhaps, and just too squashy for pace. It sits somewhere in the middle of the road, I suppose. Doesn't quite feel like it knows what it wants to be. It kind of dabbles in several different running areas, but it doesn't really ever become a master. So in terms of midsole, I think I'll probably rank the SC trainer at the bottom, followed by the Nimbus 25. Very different shoe to that one. It's on the other end of the spectrum in terms of the midsole feel. I'll then go Asics Superblast in second place. It's just got a little bit more about it, and still the master in my opinion for midsole is the Primex Strung. Outsole wise, I'm enjoying the super durable Nimbus 25. It's taken a pounding and it really responds well, though I think some of the added additional weight that we've got in the Asics shoe is from that rubber application. Quite a thick application in the heel and the forefoot. It's going to grant you a lot of longevity and durability. Loads of rubber here in the SC trainer, some really big thick strips in the heel and the forefoot section, though I have found that energy arc here that's cut out of the midsole to be a real debris hoover and magnet. It's like a sort of midsole tractor beam that just sucks up all of the dirt you can possibly find out there. Primex Strung, after about 135 miles, looks almost new actually. There's hardly any wear whatsoever on that outsole rubber. This stuff just seems to be almost invincible. I don't know if all of this is continental rubber, but whatever formula it is, it does last the test of time. Only lower amounts of initial miles into the Superblast outsole so far, but it seems to be holding up pretty well. There's certainly a pretty thick application of that rubber here from Asics. I've read loads of viewers getting hundreds of miles out of this shoe and they still keep going. One of the most durable shoes ever, actually, one of the viewers said. So I expect similar experiences from the Asics Superblast for me. I think it's much of a muchness here for outsole. It's hard to sort of pick one out in particular. There's only one that didn't work on smoother wet surfaces, and that was the SC trainer. Everything else seems pretty good up to this point. Did suck up a fair bit of debris as well, so I think I'll downgrade the SC trainer to bottom position. The Nimbus 25, the Superblast and the Primex all performing very well so far. I guess the Superblast has picked up a little bit of debris as well and some of the sort of midsole cutouts here. So if we're going to try and get some sort of ranking going, I think I'll put the Nimbus 25 and the Primex right up there at the top. So in terms of overall value, the Primex Strung and the Superblast really do kind of go to a different category. They're just that bit more versatile than the other two shoes. That Nimbus is fine for those steady sort of easier runs, but it just felt a little bit too heavy to pick up the pace. Again, the Fuelcell SC Trainer is a very soft shoe, very forgiving, but it just felt a little sloppy for pace. Primex certainly up there for speed training for me and distance stuff too. Very cushioned for those long sort of 20-mile runs. I actually found it was insanely good as well if you're running at sort of top line pace. It absolutely flies the faster you go. Price wise, of course, this is the most expensive shoe in the comparison, so you would expect it to be up there in terms of performance. What you get though, the Superblast is certainly up there, more stable than the Primex. That's a little bit cheaper too. There's some killer deals on the Nimbus 25 right now across the net, so you can pick this one up for sometimes well under 140. And of course this one's kind of been retired, I suppose, with the release of the SC Trainer 2, which is then below the 40mm stack, so it wouldn't qualify. Horses for courses here really. If you want a plusher, easy day experience, then probably the Fuelcell SC Trainer might be a good deal. If you're going to do some recovery stuff and you want a wider base as well, a landing platform, then these two are the best choice. That Superblast perhaps somewhere in the middle of the road here. There's a little bit less cash if that is a concern, which it is to everybody right now. If you want the lightest option with some reasonable width as well in the base and high quality build and design, it really is a cracking shoe out the box. For some people, the Primex Strung is going to be off the table simply because of the price. It is one of those more expensive super shoes. And of course, if you need something with stability, this just isn't going to work for you. Thus, I think the Superblast is the option there. It's got some of the things that you get with the Primex, but without that excessive weight in some of the other max cushion shoes. Asics have very carefully positioned this one somewhere in the middle, but it's very much its own shoe too. So I think if I had to list them via value, it's going to have to go down to versatility, SC Trainer right at the bottom. Then Nimbus a bit above that. It really does sort of lock into a particular category just due to the weight. I'd probably put these round about the same place for me. This is the closest thing I've found to this so far. What do you make of my comparisons between these four today, people? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Musical interlude time. I've been enjoying some of the BBC Music videos of Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. They seem to delay putting these up for a little while. I think they were perhaps done before Glastonbury, but they waited and put them out after. There's some really fantastic versions of some older Noel Gallagher material there. Going Nowhere is very, very subtle, some wonderful use of the BBC orchestra. There's a really nice version of Live Forever as well. Very, very subtle, very calm, really good vocal performances by Noel too. You can check these out on the BBC Music YouTube channel. They're available right now. Go and check them out, Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. Thanks for tuning in, people. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and also the bell for notifications. Giving this video a thumbs up like too really does help out. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you